There's one secret that most video production companies hold back, and they don't want you to know because it unlocks millions of dollars worth of contracts every single year. Now, when growing your business, there are 4 key ways to make sales. The first is outbound, when you go out to get a client. The second is inbound, where they come to you. The third is repeat, so you get repeat work and opportunity for upsales to your current existing clients. And the fourth is RFT. RFT stands for request for tender, and it's what major companies with huge budgets used to go out to the marketplace. If you win one of those contracts, they can be anywhere from $10,000 right the way up to millions of dollars worth. And yes, that's just for video production. And what's better is there's certain categories, particularly here in the UK, such as the education or public sector, local councils, governments, that have to use RFTs as a way to find new suppliers. These are companies that often you can't simply work for just by doing an outreach email or being introduced to someone. They have to take a more formalized approach, and that goes through a process called procurement. This is typically a team of people that will assess and judge many businesses to a standard criteria to see what one would be the best suited to their role. This is something that prior to this point of filming right now, where we're well through this process, we had dabbled in slightly. We had been aware it was out there, and we had given it a shot a couple of times. These businesses often post their tenders on platforms and portals and put it out there for businesses to pitch against. But the problem is, when you don't know what you're doing, it's a massive waste of time. So I'm going to give you some tips to increase not only your success rate and help you unlock some of that budget, but also what you could be doing to secure those tenders without having to lift a finger. When we've run our competitor analysis, which is something I've spoken about on this channel quite a bit in the past, we look at other people around where we are, our direct competitors, and people we aspire to be like. And we try and find as much information as we can about that business, how they operate, how their structures and systems are in place, and also how they generate their sales. And in doing that research, it was clear to identify that the people at the top that we aspire to be like were getting a lot of their projects through tenders and then building on that relationship. Now, in my experience of doing tenders before, they can take weeks to pull together. There's so much information and trying to understand the client and answering all of the questions that they've got. And to give you an idea, when a tender goes out, it's not uncommon for it to be more than 100 pages long, full of information and criteria that you have to say you can deliver on, but also you tick all of their other boxes. That might be anything from your insurance policies right through to awards that you've won. Even though it takes so much time and investment, the big reward is, of course, the financial side of things, unlocking these contracts that were otherwise almost impossible to get. So before I tell you an easy way that you can get access to these tenders without having to do a lot of the work, I want to give you some areas that you need to understand first and that you can get good at to make sure you have the best chance of winning. So the first is budget amount and budget type. If you are turning over less than $100,000 or £100,000 a year, then you're going to want to consider much lower tenders. These are the ones that pop up from time to time that might be as low as kind of like $5,000 to $20,000 mark. It might be that you're actually quite well suited to that. But when they look at these tenders, these big companies, they're also looking to make sure that they don't become your biggest client overnight, that you've got the resources to carry on as a business, because they have a duty of care. Could you imagine if the biggest company awards you a tender for a couple $100,000 and it utilizes you and your team and everything you've got for the next couple of years? You've just given yourself a job. And also they need that reassurance that if you are sick, if that you're on holiday, you can still deliver to their deadlines. By going for the smaller tenders, you're much more suited because they know that's the kind of person they're looking for. And of course, as your revenue scales and you turn over more and more, you will start to be more suited towards those bigger tenders. So it's just about being efficient and not wasting your time. Next up, before you actually start going for these big tenders and these big pitches, you want to ensure that you've got everything ready to go. You don't want to get to a point of doing a tender and then trying to be on the back foot by getting all of your systems and processes and capabilities in place. So my advice here is to simply map out what your process looks like. How do you work as a production company or as a video editing agency? What is that journey that customer is going to take? And make sure all of this is documented down, because that's something they're going to want to see. Next, you're going to need to demonstrate those capabilities and that you can actually do the work. So work examples that are from that specific industry will always do the best. If you don't have a portfolio in that particular industry, you need to think, will my current existing portfolio show that I can do that job really well? If you're unsure, then don't waste your time. It's not a good tender for you. For example, if this tender is based around interviews for a school, but you have interviews for a business manufacturer, then that's going to work out really well. But if you don't have any interviews at all and you've only got overview videos or short form videos for perhaps Instagram, then I would say that's not going to be the right fit. Because don't forget, you're going to be up against hundreds of other people all wanting a piece of that pie. The penultimate point on my checklist is to have compelling references. They're going to want to speak to people to prove that you can do a good job. The same as when you go for a job application, people will look at your references to make sure everything checks out. They're going to be doing the same. So think of maybe 3 or 4 clients that would be a really good fit that you could put down as references, and of course wouldn't mind being contacted. The final point is all about pricing. You've got to get your pricing right, because you're going to be up against other people. And sometimes when these tenders go out, they can be really vague. So don't be scared to ask questions, but do keep in mind, often the questions that are asked by competitive companies will get posted publicly so everyone can see the answers. So be strategic in the questions you're asking, but it's really important you get your pricing right, because that often makes up a big portion of how they judge this overall tender. So I promised you a way that would be an easy way through the door, a way that you could do tenders without having to lift a finger. Well, how we do this is through partnerships. Even though we're in a position now to do tenders ourselves, we've teamed up with them so that we can provide not only value to what they're doing in their services and help them unlock more potential within their tenders. Because a lot of these tenders come under multiple categories. So it might be an education website company that actually need video content as a part. Now you can team up with those people. It's a great foot through the door. They're already doing the tenders and have experience with that. And now you can provide even more value. It's a strategy that we're currently using to grow our business more. So let me know what you thought in the comments below, because on this channel, we dedicate a lot of the resources to beginner and intermediate, and this definitely sits more in the expert field. So whether it's for you right now, or whether this is just some food for thought to think about the future of your business and how to get to that level, I hope you found it useful. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.